Hello my students in grade 8, this is Miss Mary and today we will start solving the revision sheets. This is the first video, so let's start with question 1. Question 1, what occurs between atoms that do not easily lose electrons? Atoms that usually when they don't lose electrons or gain electrons, they do something else. They share electrons, and this is called covalent bonding. So atoms, if they will not lose electrons, they share electrons and they form covalent bonds. So the answer is C. Question 2. What can group number on the periodic table help you determine? If you remember the group, the number of the group represents, yes, the number of valency electrons. If group 1, so they have 1 valency electron, group 2, they have 2 valency electron, and so on. What do atoms gain, lose, or share when they bond? Usually atoms, they gain or lose or share electrons. C. Question 4. How many valency electrons does helium need to have a filled outermost energy level? If you remember, we said that helium has 2 electrons. It has only 1 shell, so it needs only 2 electrons, not 8 like the other elements. Question 5. What is a bond that forms when electrons are transferred from one atom to another? And transferred here means that one atom loses the electron and the other atom gains the electron. This kind of bonds, we call it, yes, ionic bonds. What are the charged particles that form when atoms gain or lose electrons? When atoms gain electron, they change to negative ion, and when they lose electron, they make positive ions, so the answer will be ions. What does a sodium atom become when it loses its only one valency electron? As we said, sodium will lose electron and will change to sodium ion, and sodium ion is positive ion. The charge of it is positive. Question 8. What is the charge of an aluminum ion that has 13 proton, 13 plus, and 10 electrons, 10 negative? So the overall charge for aluminum ion, will be, yes, plus 13 and minus 10, so protons are more than electrons by 3, so the overall charge will be 3 plus, because protons are positive and protons are more than electrons by 3. Question 9. What is the name of the 3-dimensional pattern that forms when ions bond? If you remember, we said in ionic bonds, ions, they form bonds together and they form shape called a crystal lattice. A regular pattern, 3-dimensional shape, crystal shape. Question 10. Why can metals bend without breaking? Metals have many properties or many characteristics because of their metallic bonds. And the metallic bond forms because metal contain positive charged ions, metal contain constantly moving electrons, metals contain ionic bonds, or metals contain moving ions. Metals bend easily and conduct electricity and conduct heat and ductility and malleability, all of these properties because electrons are constantly moving freely. Electrons are moving freely, and that's why they bend without breaking or malleable. Here, the diagram below represents a type of bonding. Ag for silver, Ag plus, this is silver ion. And this is, as we know, silver is a metal. So here the positive ions, and here the electrons, the free electrons, move between the ions. So the question, which sentence best describes the bonding shown here? That positive ions are fixed among freely shared electrons, or electrons are transferred. Electrons are transferred from one type of atom to another. Atoms of different elements share electrons to become stable, or neutral atom attract electrons from other elements to become ion. Correct answer for this question would be A, because here we have the positive ion for silver and the freely moving electrons, so the answer will be A. Next question, how are electrons in an atom organized? How electrons organize inside the atom in energy level? And question 13, what are the only parts of an atom that make chemical bonds? The only electrons or the only part of the atom that participate in chemical bonds is the protons in the nucleus, neutrons in the nucleus, electron in the nucleus, or valency electron. Yes, the valency electron, they are electrons in the outer shell, and they are the only electrons who participate in the reaction or the chemical bond. Question 14. Why don't noble gases normally form chemical bonds? Noble gases like helium, like neon, like argon, like xenon, and they are group 18 or the last group in the periodic table. Usually they don't form any chemical bonds, and they don't have the tendency to form bonds with any elements. Why? Because they have two valence electrons, they have a full outermost energy level, they have an empty outer level, or they have 8 protons. If you remember, we said that helium is the only noble gas that has only 2 electrons in the outer shell. So we cannot choose one, because neon and argon and the other elements, they don't have 2 valence electron. So we will choose letter B. They have a full outermost energy level. Like for example, for helium it's 2 and it's full. For neon 8 and also full. So we will choose letter B. 15. What is the charge of a sodium ion with 11 protons, 11 positive, and 10 electrons? Negative. So 11 protons and 10 electrons. So the overall charge will be positive or negative? Yes, will be positive, because 11 more than 10. So positive. And how many protons more than electrons? 1. So we are going to choose 1 plus. Question 16. The more easily an atom gains an electron, what does it release? It releases more. When the atom gains electron easily, this means that it releases more energy. Question 17. What are elements found in nature as diatomic molecules? Like nitrogen N2, like oxygen O2, like hydrogen H2. Some elements found in pairs. We call them diatomic elements. Di means 2, atomic, 2 atoms together, they form diatomic elements like hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Question 18. Why can metal be shaped? As we mentioned before, all metals have some properties like malleable, ductile, because of their metallic bond and the free electrons. Question 19. Which of the following properties of metals means that it can be drawn into wires? When we say that metals can be drawn into wires, very thin wires, like copper, like aluminum, like gold, they can be drawn into wires, and this property is called, it's a physical property called, yes, ductility. Not flexibility, ductility. Question 20, and this is the last question for this video. Which allows metals to be bent but not broken? Why metals bend easily? Because the number of electrons, the number of valence electrons, the number of protons, or constantly moving electrons. Constantly means always moving electrons. Yes, this is the reason why metals can be reshaped. In the next video, we will complete solving the revision sheet. So see you, take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.